afternoon. Welcome to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of thenationalpulse.com. Coming at you live from downtown in a slushy Washington, D.C. Got an action-packed show as ever. Peter Navarro, the assistant to the president on trade, will be joining us later in this hour to discuss his new report, the Immaculate Deception, what we're calling, or he called in the conclusion of the report, the theft by 1,000 cuts. If you missed that this morning on the War Room, don't miss this. We'll be drilling down into more detail with Dr. Navarro later on in the show. Kane of Citizen Free Press will be joining us as well to talk about the latest that we're seeing from Camp Biden and what's in the media. But I want to open with a breaking story from thenationalpulse.com. You can throw it to the device in front of me. Beijing Benson is our headline. The Secretary of State of Michigan, the same lady who is demanding that all sorts of election data is now deleted, trashed, memory hold, completely forgotten, no analysis of this allowed to happen. Well, Natalie Winters went back through Ms. Benson's career, and here's what we found. Beijing Benson, or Jocelyn Benson as she's called, went to Beijing in 2013. You can follow the story on the screen in front of you here. On behalf of the Wayne Law School in Detroit, Michigan. Benson, who again is now calling for the destruction of certain election data and software details, she visited China in order to teach at a Chinese Communist Party linked university. Actually, Xi Jinping's alma mater. Xi Jinping's alma mater, which Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party chairman, retains to this day close links with. So Benson goes over there in 2013, teaches these students about US election law. Specifically, she was teaching them about the Citizens United case. And here you can see we found a nice little picture of her teaching those students at Tsinghua Law School. Sorry if I butcher the name to any Chinese speakers. So this is the people we're dealing with here. Oh, this was one of my favorite parts of this story when we were researching this and putting the finishing touches on this morning. You see there a poster advertising Benson's Beijing speech. That's in Beijing. And interestingly, when we were going through the original documentation, which is still on the university website, the Wayne University website and the Tsinghua University website, it said under that picture, they posted that picture, it said under the picture, Benson was walking along in Beijing one day and was surprised to see her own face on a poster advertising her speech. Why would you, if you're going there to give a speech, why would you be surprised to see your, never mind. So, what's really interesting to me out of this story is you've got somebody who has, for the last 10 years, really, been talking about election security, been talking about, why democracy matters, integrity of the vote, integrity of the ballot, freedom. And meanwhile, she's going and helping the most repressive, authoritarian regime currently known to mankind, the Chinese Communist Party. That's Jocelyn Benson. It's a massive story. And what's even bigger about this is I want to know, and we're asking Wayne State University, who paid for this trip? Who paid for the week in China? Who paid for the hotel rooms? Who paid for the travel? Was it the Chinese Communist Party? I'd like to know, and I think the voters of Michigan would like to know, is a Chinese Communist Party paid, reimbursed, facilitated, Secretary of State now making decisions over their elections, now demanding that data is deleted in their elections? Did she learn something rather than teach something when she went to Beijing 6-7 years ago? The story is up at thenationalpulse.com. I implore you all to read it, to share it, especially if you're in the state of Michigan. I want local officials, lawmakers, legislators, activists asking the questions on the ground. Why did Beijing Benson go and lecture Chinese Communist Party students for a university tied directly to Xi Jinping, still to this day? A university, by the way, that has been named by US intelligence as having committed cyber attacks on the United States. That's where she went to give a speech. Oh, and by the way, the cherry on the cake of all of this is Tsinghua University is the same university that we exposed a couple of months ago that CNN and the New York Times and other Western journalistic outfits are in bed with. They collaborate on what the university calls its Marxist journalism course. Think about it. Marxist journalism course. Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State, Michigan, deleting data, Marxist journalism. It all ties together. These people are all compromised. Probably don't really need me to tell you that. But hopefully you do need us to show you the receipts. We've got them all here, exclusive to thenationalpulse.com. Make sure you're sharing the story. Going to be back after the break with Dr. Peter Navarro talking about his death by 1,000 cuts, theft by 1,000 cuts report. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. Should have mentioned as well, one of the things we like to do on Fridays here on the National Pulse is read out our new members' names. But we're going to be doing it today, on Thursday instead. Just like I've made today a kind of more casual Thursday rather than a casual Friday, as you see with the cardigan. It's cold outside, that's why. I want to welcome in now somebody who's just doing the Lord's work in every single way, whether it's in his position as trade advisor inside the White House or in his extracurricular in his spare time. Dr. Peter Navarro joins us now to talk about his new report, the theft by 1,000 cuts report, or the Immaculate Deception report. Dr. Navarro, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And you're almost breaking the National Pulse servers right now. I'll have you know, with just how many thousands upon thousands of people are flocking to this. And I can see in real time, by the way, how much time people are spending on the site. They're not just reading the top lines and then migrating away off to do something else. They are reading the report, Dr. Navarro. So congratulations to you on putting together such a succinct and important report. Please take it from the top. Tell us all about it.
Sure, and I have to congratulate you, Raheem. You really built something beautiful at the National Pulse. And as I do acknowledge in my report, if it were not for publications like the National Pulse, Bannon's War Room, which you are a very important part of, John Solomon's Just the News, and the Real American Network, we really would not be getting the true story of what's going on. So let me give you essentially the big takeaways for your audience, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to do this investigation. First of all, it's very clear from looking at all the evidence, which I have, that there's a coordinated Democrat Party strategy effectively to stuff the ballot box with Biden votes, primarily mail-in and absentee votes, and at times actually destroy Trump ballots. That's number one. Number two, and this is really important, there's razor-thin margins in all of the 6 battleground states I look at. It's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And when you look at a granular level at the number of possible illegal votes, that number dwarfs the Biden victory margin. And Third, and this is equally important, there's no silver bullet here. It's wrong for people to think there's going to be like an aha moment where some single thing explains the theft. It's death by 1,000 cuts across these 6 states, or more precisely, death by what I call the 6 dimensions of election irregularities. And what are they? What you have are 6 things, Raheem. It's outright voter fraud, the mishandling of ballots, number 2, contestable process fouls. These are things like not doing an appropriate signature match, equal protection clause violations like treating Republican observers or voters different from Democrats. You've got these voting machine irregularities that go beyond the Dominion system. And then there's just these really funky, significant statistical anomalies. And so here's the thing. It's death by 6 dimensions of these election irregularities, but each state is different in its own election irregulatory ways. So, for example, in Georgia, you've got the consent decree issues going on. In Wisconsin, you got the indefinitely confined voter scam going on. In Pennsylvania, you've effectively got this out-of-control Secretary of State giving illegal guidance for mail-in ballots. Michigan, first among equals in terms of intimidation and abuses of poll watchers and observers. Arizona, you've got just really big ballot mishandling. In Nevada, I mean, come on now, giving cash and gift cards to Native Americans to vote for Biden. I mean, that's just not. There's so many things wrong with that you can't even begin to imagine. And the last thing I would say, Raheem, is that what we're witnessing now is kind of ends justify the means in the minds of the anti-Trump forces, where they're willing basically to sweep all of these election irregularities and outright fraud in some cases under the rug. As they do that, engage in the usual cancel culture, doxing for folks like us. And to me, it's just a very dangerous game that's being played. And, what we have to do, Raheem, in advance of Inauguration Day is really get to the bottom of all of this, because the last thing America needs is the perception that the greatest democracy in history can't run a free and fair election, and that we have now an illegal and illegitimate president.
Yeah, I mean, look, I couldn't agree more with you on that statement. That is something that bothers me late into the night. And, I'm not even an American citizen. And I just can't imagine. I mean, the reason that I'm here and the reason that I care so much is because I look at it from sort of an across-the-pond perspective and think, oh, my goodness, America is probably the only place left in the world with a value system and a political system that we believe in and that works, and a constitution that's still in place, somewhere that the rest of the world can model itself on. And now people are looking at the world, people are looking at America from the rest of the world going, oh dear, is this the end of it? And an illegitimate president, if Joe Biden is to be inaugurated on January the 20th, an illegitimate president would kind of seal the declinist fate, the decline that so many people have tried to force the United States into, the very same type of decline that my country went through decades ago now. You guys would argue centuries ago. But that's the point, and that's what they want to lock in. Dr. Navarro, we're going to go jump to a quick break in just a moment, but we have the lead. Your story was the lead story, your report was the lead story on the site all morning. We've just flipped the lead because we've been doing some investigative work behind the Michigan Secretary of State. It turns out she went to China back in 2013-14 to lecture Chinese Communist Party-linked students at Tsinghua University, that's Xi Jinping's alma mater, on U.S. elections, teaching how U.S. elections work to CCP legal graduates 7 years ago. And now she's the Michigan Secretary of State, and she's saying, hey, delete all the data. We don't want, we're not going to go back through this. We're not going to relitigate this. Joe Biden's the president. Shut up to the rest of you. We'll be back with Dr. Peter Navarro. I want to get your thoughts on that in just a moment. Well, welcome back to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of thenationalpulse.com. I'm sitting looking at I've got all these devices. Can we get a wide shot here? I've got all these devices in front of me. We're working on so many different things at the same time. I've got the cell phone there going off non-stop. I've got my little writing device here. We've got the laptop here, which is the National Pulse. That's where everything operates out of there. We've got the show thing here. It's all going on, right? I feel like an octopus here with everything, but it's all going on because there are so many things that are coming together, so many threads that are being woven together right now in the overarching narrative and in the detail and in the minutia. Dr. Peter Navarro is on the line with us. He just released this epic report, the Immaculate Deception, a theft by 1,000 cuts, walking people through. And what I love about this, Dr. Navarro, is this is the high and the low. Right? Anybody can pick this up and read this, but at the same time, it's not dumbing anything down. This explains very clearly across 30-something odd pages, very easily readable, lots of diagrams in there as well, what exactly took place where and how at this last election. So kudos to you for summarizing it in this regard. And I said on the show this morning, right after you were on the War Room, I came on to offer my 2 cents on the matter as well. And I said, look, the court of public opinion is as important here as the courts that so many great people are fighting in every single day all across the country. And it's a credit to you and it's a credit to everybody out there who recognizes that this isn't about the base, right? You look at the McLaughlin polling and they show, hey, the base is on side. They get it. They know that the fraud happened. But there are people that have to be convinced. Moderate voters have to be convinced. Female voters have to be convinced. Urban voters have to be convinced. Black voters have to be convinced. But at the same time, there's good news. Hispanics overwhelmingly believe that there was fraud at this election. White voters believe that there was fraud at this election. Conservatives obviously believe it. And the list goes on. Older voters, over 55, believe it, in the either majority or the plurality. So can you just explain to us, with that in mind, why you thought this report was so important to put together right now?
Raheem, what's been frustrating to me since a little after midnight on election night is the inability to have the situation of what was going on fully explained. What I try to do, let's go back to midnight. Well, we start with midnight when Donald Trump held seemingly insurmountable leads in 4 of the 6 battleground states that I look in: Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And then this red tide, this Trump red tide, as ballots in the dead of night started coming in, morphed into these really thin razor margin leads of Joe Biden, and it just looked wrong. So it's like, for weeks I heard people talk about this or that or whatever, but there was no organizing principle. I couldn't see the chessboard. So what I did, Raheem, is I spent over a week just pouring through over 2,000 affidavits and declarations, over 50 court cases and rulings, public testimony at state venues, photos, videos, press accounts, right? And from that, I distilled it down into what is really a complex strategy that the Democrats have implemented, right? It's a coordinated strategy. The organizing principle of the Democrat strategy is basically to stuff the ballot box with mail-in and absentee ballots, that many of which are illegal, and also at the same time, in some cases, take Trump ballots that come in, flip them into Biden votes, or just destroy them outright. That's the strategy. So the question, Raheem, is how'd they do that? How'd they do that? So as I poured through all this evidence, we start with the six dimensions, right? You go, you start with outright fraud. That's what everybody kind of associates with what's going on now. And there's certainly plenty of options for that. It's like, if you think about, okay, like the fake ballot manufacturing, that would be possibly those votes that came in a tractor trailer from New York to Pennsylvania that we still haven't accounted for, right?
Right.
The indefinitely confined voter abuses. I mean, people scan in Aspen shouldn't be able to claim they're indefinitely confined and not have their signatures checked properly, right? Bribery, okay? But okay, so there's like 10 categories in the report that voters can go through: dead voters, ghost voters. But then you keep going, right? The next category, ballot mishandling. There's another 8 categories there. It's like, didn't check the voter ID when they came in to vote. Didn't check the signature match. You got these things called naked ballots coming in that don't have an outer envelope. A huge thing, Raheem, is this broken chain of custody with the drop boxes that nobody's watching, right? And then you go on and you got all these what I call contestable process files. This is where Democrats in these battleground states not only pushed the envelope of the law, they just blew past that envelope, right? With things like giving these mail-in extensions in Wisconsin where, contrary to law, or one of the big contestable process files, which is also an Equal Protection Clause violation, is this harassment and intimidation of Republican poll watchers and observers. That's our first offense, Raheem. Let's be clear about that. If you can't stand 6 feet away and watch the ballot come in, see if a signature match done, see if it's a naked ballot or not, see that it's not run through a vote machine more than once, then you don't have
And that was, and that's obviously why they wanted to keep people out there. Dr. Navarro, I know we've only got you on for one more minute. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you putting all of this together, being with us here today. The report is on the website. It's on thenationalpulse.com, mentioned in the New York Post as well today, being reported all over the place. Now, with the 30 seconds we've got left here, I just want to get your response to that Michigan story, the Secretary of State story, going to China 2013. Any thoughts on that real quick?
I just wonder whether she took Eric Swalwell with her. Maybe it was a date. But this is what the Chinese do, right? They take money, and it's a honey pot and a money pot. A honey pot with Swalwell, a money pot for the Secretary of State, who is then a dean at a college, basically looking for Chinese students to come in and looking for grant money, and they don't. They do not care. Right. They do not care.
Dr. Navarro,
whether the Chinese Communist Party is killing people.
Absolutely true. We're up against the break here. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for doing the report. All right, we're going to be back with Kane, Citizen Free Press, in just a second. Well, we are incredibly grateful, not being a big corporate media sponsored outlet over at the National Pulse. We're incredibly grateful when ordinary people go over to our website and they click the support button. And what happens when you click the support button is you get this page. You go to that page and you decide, hey, I want to do the annual membership or the life membership or the 3-year discount membership or the monthly membership. And in that moment, you choose to support real news, to support real investigations. It's all well and good us whining about the fake media and the fake news media and Jim Acosta and all of that, but if we're not taking active steps... Hey, most of you give money to CNN every day. Yes, you do. Unless you cut your cable subscription, the carriage fee that is built into your cable package automatically goes to CNN, whether or not you turn that channel on. So you're already doing that. That's why I say to people, hey, if you can afford it, please help us out. And here are the people over the last couple of days who have signed up at the National Pulse, and I always like to thank them at least once a week. I'm going to just rip through some names real quick here. Arthur and Melinda, Sandra, Tracy, Monica, Lisa, Patricia, Karen, lots of ladies. James, William, Peggy, Joseph, Barry, Gisela, or Gisela, depending on how you say it. Don, Chester, Linda, Mike, let's see, Michael, Julie. She's got a long list up here. Julie again, Carla, David, Kevin, Jordan, Raymond, Hugh, Lesha, John, Jason, Trudy, Carol, Shep, Anne-Marie, William, Evangeline, Musniki, Daniela, Tanya, Andrew, and the list goes on and on and on. So my great big thanks to all those people who have decided to support Real News, Real Investigations. Everything we do, and every day we do it, we have in mind that it's your money and your support that we're doing everything on the back of. And that's one of the reasons we'll never let you down, because it bears on us every day. If we don't do our jobs well, we're held to account by you guys. You don't sign up, and you might cancel your memberships. You'll complain to me for sure in real time in our private Discord chat channel that you get access to, and ask the people who are already in there. I'm in there every day. So I thank you for that, and I like to be held to account, not like the other corporate media dirtbags. Somebody else who is just doing incredible work at the moment and working non-stop is Kane. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of citizenfreepress.com, and Kane also is one of these new news outlets which isn't big corporate media backed. And Kane this week, for the first time after 4 years of running the site all on his own, building up to, I think it's 95 million page views now a month, which is extraordinary, ladies and gentlemen. He has started, much to my chagrin, because I tried to tell him to do this a long time ago, started finally to take donations so that he can hire some staff and not have to sit there at his desk himself for 22 hours a day, keeping the American public informed of what's going on. So the site, you can see citizenfreepress.com. The second link down, it talks about the new donation function. Kane, welcome to the show. I want to start off there, because this is such an important thing that's happening. Ordinary people are deciding to change the media, and they're doing it by giving to us, they're doing it by giving to you, all these other news sites popping up out there as well. That's how you change the media, not by whining, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm amazed by the outpouring of support. And I've heard every week when I'm on your show, when you read the list. So I know that you've been getting excellent support at National Pulse too. And let me quickly say, I saw somewhere last week about your traffic. You guys had now passed Washington Free Beacon, and that's a heck of an accomplishment in less than a year. So I want to get that out there. As for fundraising and running my site, yeah, it's been 42 months, 18 hours a day, 1,329 straight days. I've covered everything myself, and I'm not really raising money for myself in any way. As you said, I just want to grow the site and hire a couple of names that, when I can eventually announce them, will probably impress some people. And but yeah, it's important. And I think
are you telling me? Are you coming on this show and telling this audience that you won't break the news on this show, Kane? How dare you?
That is correct. Yeah, well, see, everybody likes anonymity. You know, they like the way that I deal with it, and everyone who's starting to learn how to post stories on the site sort of wants to keep the same anonymity. You mentioned our traffic. Yeah, it's been ridiculous. You know, that's one of the things we're going to do with the money, is do a massive server upgrade, because we're getting close, as you said, to 100 million page views a month, about more than 3 million a day, and we'll probably double or triple from here in the next 12 to 18 months, just like National Pulse will.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things, and it's heartening to see people giving. And you know, part of it is I've never run advertisements on Citizen Free Press.
Right.
So you're talking about 4 years of, you know, not to get too graphic, but I know people like us to be transparent about running websites. Yeah. At 90 million page views a month, if I just had a couple of ads, you're looking at, you know, $150,000 to $200,000 a month that would be coming into the site that is not coming in because I'm not running ads.
So I hear the audience out there screaming, well, why aren't you bloody running ads then?
Yeah, well, it would help the company grow. It would help Citizen Free Press grow and expand, and we probably will, but it'll be static. It'll be static ads. It'll be, We'll see.
Look,
see.
and here's the thing, Kane. It's and not to talk over you, but it's we've had conversations about this, right? And so a lot of it goes down to user experience and to improving the user experience. And nobody likes putting advertising on their sites. I loathe it so much so that I keep an ad blocker on my own site. I loathe it, right? But it's about user experience. It's also about not being beholden to these big corporate firms, these big advertisers who at any point, if you become reliant on them, can just cut you off and say, see ya, you're not getting that, and by the time you know it, Natalie Winters isn't getting her salary for the month, right?
Absolutely correct. And here's a quick thing for anyone listening. You want to make tens of millions of dollars? Start an advertising network that focuses specifically on conservative content and conservative sites. No one has really ever tried to do it, or not with the effort that it's going to entail. Right. But it's a huge opportunity for all kinds of sites. So yeah,
Kane, I didn't expect us to be talking about our own websites for an entire segment, but somehow we have. We'll come back. I want to get your thoughts on what's going on in the media, how you're putting the site up. This new story we've got up at the National Pulse as well. Down the memory hole, Team Biden has started to delete their attack ads on people like Mayor Pete Buttigieg, but don't worry, we saved them, and we're going to play them for you in the next segment. We'll be right back after this short break. Okay, welcome back to the National Pulse. I want to just let you guys know how much I sacrifice to be with you here every day, okay? Manchester United are playing right now, and 3 goals have been scored in the first 40 minutes. I've missed every single one, all right? So I'm going to have to play catch-up with the match afterwards. That's how much we sacrifice for you here. I want to bring Kane back in from citizenfreepress.com. Kane, that's football, real football. I think you call it soccer that I'm talking about there. I'm guessing you don't follow it.
Absolutely, I follow it.
You do?
But not as closely as you. Yeah, I grew up playing. American kids. There you go. Are you a Manchester United fan? Who do you root for?
I am a Manchester United fan. All Londoners are.
I had a good friend growing up who was a dominant tennis player. He played #1 singles at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and his goal in life is to be the team manager of Manchester United. And he used to say that to me all the time growing up.
Well, they're giving it to anybody nowadays. I mean, we've got a former player of ours now managing the team, so he's probably not far away. I think it's just we're all going to have been Man United manager by the end of it. Kane, I want to get to this story about Pete Buttigieg and the actually quite withering, humiliating attack ad from Team Biden back during the Democratic primaries that they've now memory hold, deleted off the Team Biden website. As if we wouldn't notice, as if nobody would see that and then go out there and find the actual ad, archive it, put it back up. And that's precisely what we did late last night as we saw this happening. We saved the ad, and I wonder if we can roll it or let's roll it here right now. Or just roll a black screen.
Barack Obama called Joe Biden
the best vice president America's ever had.
But Pete Buttigieg doesn't think much of the vice president's record. Let's compare. When President Obama called on him, Joe Biden helped lead the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which gave health care to 20 million people. And when parkgoers called on Pete Buttigieg, he installed decorative lights under bridges, giving citizens of South Bend colorfully illuminated rivers. Both Vice President Biden and former Mayor Buttigieg have taken on tough fights. Under threat of a nuclear Iran, Joe Biden helped to negotiate the Iran deal. And under threat of disappearing pets, Buttigieg negotiated lighter licensing regulations on pet chip scanners. Both Vice President Biden and former Mayor Pete have helped shape our economy. Joe Biden helped save the auto industry, which revitalized the economy of the Midwest. and led the passage and implementation of the Recovery Act, saving our economy from a depression. Pete Buttigieg revitalized the sidewalks of downtown South Bend by laying out decorative brick. And both Biden and Buttigieg have made hard decisions. Despite pressure from the NRA, Joe Biden passed the assault weapons ban through Congress. Then he passed the Violence Against Women Act.
I want to make sure you pay very close
Public
attention to this
pressure
next
mounted
part.
Against him, former Mayor Pete fired the first African-American police chief of South Bend. And then he forced out the African-American fire chief, too. We're electing a president. What you've done matters.
And there you go. Go to Joe 33330 or whatever it was. Kane, that was pretty humiliating, right? I mean, this is we often talk about the Kamala Joe spat and how they could possibly be working together after Kamala basically said that Joe Biden's a sex predator, which we all know he is. But that was not just accusing Mayor Pete of being a total, utter, lightweight clown, but also a racist. I mean, and now we're supposed to just forget that.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. And you were right to bring up the Kamala stuff. You know, the memory hole that's going on, it didn't happen on our side. Think of all the horrible things with, you know, Trump had to fight off 16 Republicans in the primary, and pretty much all of them said some ridiculous things, and they all are still available on YouTube. No one from the Trump campaign tried to get rid of them. No one tried to hide them. So it's interesting that this is happening from the Biden campaign after Buttigieg was appointed transportation secretary. So
hold
yeah,
on, Kane, don't you dare belittle the first openly gay cabinet member. Oh wait, he's not, and that's another thing that's being memory holed. Richard Grenell is being memory holed in real time.
There you go. That's a great point, Richard Grenell. And you know, it's dumb. Richard Grenell didn't want to be known as the first openly gay cabinet member. It was great that Trump made sure that, you know, that America knew that. But it's dumb. Only Democrats and their identity politics make this stuff important.
Yeah, I think
Grenell is a great American. People, you know, you want to know what people want Grenell to do? They want him to run the FBI for the next 28 days, and they want Sidney Powell to run the CIA. It's, you know, look. I wanted to, something else really quick. I mentioned that idea about starting a conservative ad network in the last segment, and there were 5 comments about it on my site already. I think people understand. I want to, you know, that would solve the problem that we're all having, right? Being deplatformed. If there were a conservative ad network that focused on conservative companies, and I've got a list of 100 of these companies. Anyway. So
by the way, what's really interesting that you said that, Kane, is that somebody actually suggested that to me in our Discord channel a couple of weeks ago. And of course, I nodded my head and I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. But sort of shrugged and thought, I don't have time to do something like that. But anybody who really wants to become incredibly wealthy, I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars wealthy, and you want to do something great for your country and great for your movement, that's the thing to do, right?
Yeah, and you know, hundreds of millions certainly sounds good. The problem is time, as you've said. It's not an easy thing. No. You know, to get into the intricacies, to really do well in advertising, you have to have direct sales. So you have to build a company that goes out and courts conservative audience, conservative corporations, and lets them know that there isn't hate, that there isn't white supremacy on these sites. There's love. We love, you know. The one big thing about the Trump train, it doesn't matter red, white, yellow, or blue. As long as you believe in America first and bringing manufacturing home and giving the middle finger to China, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, and in the United States Constitution. And I totally agree. Kane, we've got to jump to another quick break here. Can't wait to get you back, get your thoughts on the broader news cycle, what's going on the stack, that's citizenfreepress.com, this huge list of links, all the latest news as it breaks, 24 hours a day up there at citizenfreepress.com. I want to thank the entire audience over there. Every what do you call it? The Citizen Free Press Nation. Every single one of you is just the best. We'll be back in a second. All right, we've talked about a lot of the important breaking news earlier on in the show. Dr. Peter Navarro. We've talked about ourselves, Kane and I, and the National Pulse and Citizen Free Press. I want to talk about something else real quick here for a moment. That's Dan Crenshaw, and it's what's going on in Georgia at the moment. You know, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, you must vote, you have to vote. I'm also not one of these people who's like, oh, you know, screw them, you owe them completely nothing and never do anything with them again. But I'm veering that way. I'm veering towards the what the heck does the RNC do anyway kind of mindset, not least because I've lived it. I lived it under the Conservative Party in Britain. I left that party and joined the UK Independence Party and actually made a difference that led the United Kingdom into leaving the European Union. And the Trump base, the MAGA, the America First thing is just so much the same. There's so much the same movement as the great ordinary working classes of the United Kingdom who defected from the Conservative Party in their millions to voting for UKIP and indeed the Brexit Party as well. And I look at things like this from Dan Crenshaw, which I want to throw on the screen here at the same time, and I just think no wonder people are going off you guys so much. Here's the latest advertisement. I'm an actor playing an action man role. Look, I'm being summoned away. You know, this is filmed footage. The amount of time, the amount of money that is spent on something like this for Dan Crenshaw to make himself look like a cool dude. I mean, you know, it's boomer cringe as far as I'm concerned. No offense to any of the boomers out there. It's a turn of phrase. But this is ridiculous. Imagine that money being used to door knock, to leaflet, to put boots on the ground, to do things to, you know, hold Raffensperger and these rhino Georgians to account who aren't doing anything to help the president, who aren't doing anything to help the president's base, to make sure that the steal is exposed. No. Instead, we're treated to this, right? A vanity project. And I don't know Dan Crenshaw. I personally, I don't care to. But for me, I look at this and the production values and everything, and I just think, you know, well, even if it's just the time spent doing this, well, what is the point? Does he think this is geeing people up? Kane, I want to get your thoughts on this. What is going on here?
Dan Crenshaw wants to be president of the United States.
That's what it is. That's what this is. This is, how cool am I? You should think of me as the next. Like, how cool would it be to have the commander-in-chief parachuting in to Georgia?
Yeah, there's blood in the water, and people are anticipating 2024, and people are already jockeying, and Dan Crenshaw wants to be president. And I think that's part of what this is. You know, Crenshaw's a really controversial figure. Every time I do a story on him on the site, it's sort of split right down the middle. People love him as a war hero. A certain class hates him they view him as a gun grabber, as someone who's exposed or shown a little bit of weakness on the Second Amendment in some areas. So he's really a galvanizing figure, but I think that this is about building his national profile. Maybe it's, you know, the first step is to take on John Cornyn in Texas. Maybe this is to become the new junior senator in Texas to the senior Ted Cruz. But Crenshaw definitely has ambitions. And yeah, I think it's in bad taste for everyone. Anyone who wants to be loved by MAGA needs to watch what they're doing over the next 6 weeks and be very, very careful, because 75 million voters have a long memory, and they don't want to see people give up on Trump and start promoting themselves until there's no other options available.
How about just be MAGA, right? How about just be America First? Rather than posturing and doing these videos, why not just adopt the policy positions that your base wants, that your constituents want? Isn't that what representative government is supposed to be about? Not about making, cool dude videos. I'm sorry to have to, I really don't like punching right in this regard, but I don't really regard this as punching right. Dan Crenshaw's a neocon, and to heck with him. All right, I want to pivot away as well from that now, Kane. I want to go over to some of the other things that are going on right now. Sidney Powell. So you got to take the small victories with the big victories. And one of the small victories this morning was the New York Times wrote up this story about how Dominion has written Sidney Powell a nasty legal letter, but the New York Times didn't actually publish the legal letter. So I went over to the author on Twitter and I lit him up. I said, hey, I don't want to read your parsing of the letter, right? I'm not interested in your crib notes on it and your selective quotations on it. Why don't you publish the letter? About an hour later, he actually publishes the letter on his Twitter feed. He didn't reply to me, though. I went back and I just checked, and it was up there, and I went through the letter. And what's really interesting about the Dominion letter is Dominion repeat some of the outright falsehoods that they have peddled for months and months. Now, I'm sure there are some things in there that their lawyers think are great. Fine, let's see the lawsuit then. Forget your letters. You want to bring suit. But in the letter, they talk about being competitors with Smartmatic. Oh, we've got nothing to do with Smartmatic. You keep lying and saying that we're in bed with Smartmatic. Kane, we revealed that they have a non-compete agreement, that they have licensing agreements between the two companies, and they're still out there making the false claim that they're not linked at all. And I just look at this, and I don't know if you've even had a chance to sort of look at or hear this story yet, but I look at it, Kane, and I just think, wow, here it goes again. Another big corporate which gives political donations to Democrats and to Republicans that they want on their side. Another big corporate trying to bully the little guy.
It's the great American ballot swamp. None of us had any idea. Maybe we had a slight musing about voter fraud from John Kerry and George Bush in 2004 and machines in Ohio. Well, none of us had any idea this was going on. And it turns out, as we pull back the curtain and as National Pulse has done extremely well, you've got Dominion obviously in bed with Smartmatic. You posted stories, Lord Malik Brown, I remember, just about a week to 10 days ago. Look, that's one of the great things. The Trump army is fantastic at research, and we've been able to expose this stuff. The lies that the Dominion CEO told yesterday at the Wisconsin hearing have already been documented. It's
Yep.
It's frustrating.
Kane, we got to bounce. I want to thank you for your time. I want to make sure everybody goes over to citizenfreepress.com, become a part of Citizen Free Press Nation. David Brody's up next in the water cooler, thenationalpulse.com/support if you like what we do and you want us to keep doing it. We'll see you again tomorrow, 3 p.m.